Welcome to That's What She Said. I'm Kerry Rossow. These are my show conspirators, Jill Youse and Casey Wakefield. If you think our dancing was awkward, just wait until you hear about Erin's trip to the gynecologist. Apologies now. We want to thank you for being here. Thank you for overlooking all of our rookie mistakes. This is our first time. We're really nervous. Casey pitted out backstage. Poor Youse has the nervous toots, so bear with us.
You know, we often get asked how this whole thing started. Well, it came about when we wanted to provide an environment for other women to share their genuine stories in a real and vulnerable way. So some of the stories tonight may resonate with you more than others, but it is our hope that you leave feeling connected, inspired, and uplifted. Also, feel free to tweet, text, Facebook, or whatever you do to share with your friends who couldn't be here. It's perfectly fine with us if you have your phones out during the show. Just please put them on vibrator.
So for me, being a part of the show has been life-changing because of the women I've met along the way, because of the countless friends, family, and companies who've called and said, how can we help? How can we be a part of this show, a part of this movement, not even a show? And that's what's made a difference for me. And tonight, I just wanted to give special props to a few people, one person in particular, and that would be Dr. Val-Beth Homan. She's backstage making this show happen. And Val-Beth, we heart you, Val-Beth, we heart you. Or Val-Bert, as some people might call her now. And I also wanted to thank our presenting partners, Christie Clinic and Krannert Center, for making tonight possible. You have been the fuel behind the fire wherever you are out there. I can't see you, but raise your hands. Hello, thank you very much, Christie and Krannert. And then I also want to thank our community partners for going above and beyond for making our show fabulous, even us fabulous. Thank you for all that you have done. They've done our hair, our fake eyelashes.
It takes a village to look like this.
It takes a village. They've decked out our stage. How about this stage and these chairs? I mean, wow.
Thank you, Checkered Moon.
Thank you, Checkered Moon. Yes. And they've even let us stay at their house. We did kick some of our sponsors out of their homes this week so our speakers could stay there. And not only that, one of our sponsors gave us new cars. Like, we got new cars for our sponsors this week, or for our speakers to drive around. We're feeling pretty good. So anyway, join me in thanking our sponsors, all of our sponsors, and all of you. One more person I have to mention, and that is Annie Poppin. Annie Poppin of Annie Poppin Designs, otherwise known as Mowgli Studios, did all of our websites, everything creative. She is the person responsible. When people ask us how did we do this, it's Annie Poppin. Thank you, Annie Poppin. She's backstage too. We love you.
Tonight's show is dedicated to you and to all of the women who inspire us, all of the Mrs. Lathams, the Tyra Brownings, all of you. Thank you to the women who paved the way for us and to the women that we've lost along the way. Tonight, let's have a great time and rock this show for those ladies. The women that you're going to meet tonight could be your sisters, your girlfriends, or your neighbors. When I asked them to share a glimpse into their lives, the only thing that I could offer was camaraderie and chocolate, and in some cases, booze. Looking at you. But they all said the same thing, just like our sponsors. They said, how can we help? So tonight, they'll share their stories, our stories, of building our families, saying goodbye to loved ones, and all of the Me Too moments in between. They came from planes, trains, and automobiles to be here tonight. Please join me in welcoming the She Said speakers.
My name is Shawn L. Love, MD, and I am an orthopedic surgeon. Mom to 9-year-old Asia Capri Capel, mom to 3-year-old Cookie Dough, our ferret, 14-year wife to Parrish Capel, breast cancer survivor, conqueror, dyslexia advocate, woman, black, tall, fat, sister, friend, smart, hardworking, and on and on and on. I sound good. I sound worthy, don't I? Labels. I learned early in life that who we think we are is defined by our labels. This is how we introduce ourselves and conduct our relationships in this world. I was recently distraught as I discovered that how I felt about myself was often determined by which label I was acting under at that moment and who was applying the label. Most often, I was applying it to myself, negatively. What is a label? Something used to mark, inscribe, define, identify, indicate, seal, or brand, so that one knows the manufacturer, nature, destination, use, category, and classification. Labels put you in a box. They limit you. They commit you. They confine you. They constrict you. They hold you back. They are narrow and they are incomplete. And yet, at every stage of life, we get a new one. This is the story of how I shed mine in my quest to pass on to my daughter a legacy of hope and love and the inspiration and courage to accept only one label in her life. I have been on TV and in ads featured as a successful doctor with a cool name. All because of words I wrote about my father and how his death inspired me to want to become a doctor. I succeeded. I am a doctor. Shoot, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. But how can I be a success and feel like a failure? I was recently looking at some old pictures and old journals from my past. I see how I let a group of people steal my life, my joy, my purpose, and I know at this very moment I have to forgive them. I have been stuck since those very instances. What they said about me, said to me, what they did to me has shaped my life, has made my labels. I gave all my God-given power to them. Now I want it back. My trying to prove them wrong by not really believing they were wrong and trying to hide that truth, always thinking like what they said was true. I have let anger and resentment almost destroy me. Although to the outside world, I look like I have it all together, like a success, hello, my name is Shawn L. Love, MD, and I am a failure, is what is playing in my head. I have tried to believe what God writes and says about me, about being worthy, but I still can't believe him because of what they said. If I don't figure out how to forgive them, I'm going to die before I see my 9-year-old grow up. I have overcome so much in my life, my father's death, poverty, breast cancer, just to top the list, all of it against great odds, always trying to prove wrong what someone else said I couldn't do or wouldn't ever be. I never believed I could not do something if I put my mind to it and worked hard. God has always been on my side. He has never let me down. That is what my mom and dad taught me. But somewhere along the way, the background noise got louder than the voice of my mom and God. I stopped believing in me. I have always been a glass half full kind of girl until that instant when I started seeing the glass half empty, and I started pouring it into an even bigger glass just to prove it empty. Again, my labels. I have now lived a life, past several years, a self-fulfilling prophecy, self-sabotage, self-doubt, and self-hate. I have lived wanting to believe God is right about me, but in the back of my mind, and now I realize in my own heart, always wondering, but what if they're right? Now I know I can't move past this, and it's been eating away at me for years. Part of me doesn't want to forgive them. They have become my crutch, but now I'm crippled. How can I teach my beautiful, perfect daughter something I don't believe myself? So this is the first moment of the rest of my life, the beginning of my story. You know who you are. I forgive you. I take my life back. Now get the label maker. Hello, my name is Shawn L. Love, and I am enough.
My name is Kerry, and I am chronically awkward. I come from a long line of awkward ladies. I have a long history of awkward moments and bringing shame upon my family. But when I turned 40, I decided to stop battling the awkward, and I was gonna just let my freak flag fly loud and proud. You never know where these moments are gonna happen to you. For me, it happened at our old YMCA. My husband and I had taken our 4 monkeys to play basketball and to enjoy a family swim night, which, let me tell you, family swim night, that is code for public family squabbling. Do not be fooled by Amy Armstrong. So, as we got to the door, my husband said some beautiful words to me. He said, "Why don't I take them home and you stay behind and have some alone time?" Ah. And so, boom, I sprinted to the locker room. But in my sprint, I forgot to get the gym bag from him. Oops. That gym bag had my granny suit and matching skirt that I swore I would never own. But nevertheless, it was in a swagger wagon on its way home. So I stood there having this mental argument with myself. I really wanted that alone time, but I really did not want to join the naked locker room ladies club. You know who those ladies are. They stand around in the locker room and they chit-chat, wearing only a smile. And they do their pre-workout stretches. Amy, good to see you. How are the kids? Mrs. Stevens, how are you? Wow. No, I did not want to join that club. But I threw caution to the wind and my clothes, and I got in that hot tub. And it was so relaxing. It was awesome for 39 seconds. Creak. Into the locker room came Mrs. Stepford, perfectly coiffed and in her very appropriate tankini. So being the ninja I am, I quickly positioned myself so that she would be shielded from my full frontal. But my plan backfired because then she was unsuspecting when she climbed into the hot tub. And I saw the horror register on her face. So we both stared at the walls for answer. She lasted about 9 seconds and she bolted. But she did not warn Miss 19-year-old hard body swimmer trainer type that was coming in. So unsuspecting, in came Miss Hardbody. She did not have the courtesy that Mrs. Stepford had had. Youth, kids today. Her eyes locked right on my 36 longs. And I didn't know, like, what do? Do you just sit there and like, yeah, that's right? Or what would I even say if I said anything, you know? I mean, I could go all sort of aggressive and gangsta. You want a piece of this? But I thought that might creep her out. That's wrong. And then I thought I could just go sort of bitter and sad. You know, this is gonna happen to your body one day too. You're looking into a mirror, sweetheart, it's coming. But I didn't have to make a decision, thankfully, because, well, thankfully, I heard it again. Creak! Are you kidding me, YMCA? Really? Are you on the intercom out there? Ladies and gentlemen, we have our very own naked soccer mom in the hot tub tonight. You kidding? So I turned to look, and it is a woman, the very vision of modesty, wearing a burqa. It was awful. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I should have just sat there. I know that now. I should have just waited them out. But being the queen of impulsivity and awkward moments, I freaked my freak. And as I was bolting, leaping over Miss Hardbody, and you know what? She threw her hands up in a protective movement. And I still don't know. Was she trying to shield her eyes? Look away! Look away! My eyes! My eyes! Or was she fearing that she was about to get smacked with my loose boob? I don't know. But I didn't wait around. So I had a college flashback and, you know, got my clothes back on and did the walk of shame right out of the door. It was awful. For days, this story, every time I thought of it, I wanted to throw up. There are a lot of these moments in my life, and I decided this is it. I'm not going to let this embarrassing story fester. I'm going to tell my sisters and my girlfriends. I vowed to let my freak flag fly from here on out. So I told my sisters and my girlfriends, and they were so supportive, and they laughed and they laughed and they laughed. Thank you for that. And there's great relief in the telling of our stories to each other. So here's the takeaway. Find your peeps, your posse, your tribe, whatever. Find those women that make you laugh. My friends and I formed a neighborhood mom office, and we call it the Moffice. Many of you have been there. We show up every day with our laptops and our to-do lists. Some days we work in silence, barring Youse's tooting. And some days we dance to 80s music, and some days we prank the people who had the nerve to not show up that day. But every day, we laugh. And last year, I made a bold statement in that Moffice to my Moffice mates. I was working on a big project, and I said, if that thing happens, I am gonna run naked down Healy Street. And yeah, that's right, of course that thing had happened. And my Moffice mates held me to my word. They are so kind that way, but I'm gonna fly my freak flag. So on a cold January morning, with snow on the ground, my friends lined Healy Street with their swagger wagons, and I dropped my parka, and I took the coldest 20-yard dash of my life. Thank you for that vow. I'm so sorry. It's bad enough if you saw it in person, but to see it that big, I am so sorry. And as it was happening, I knew that this was a story I would tell my girls someday far, far away from now. But I would tell my girls, find those women that will take your picture while you're naked on Healy Street. But find those women who will hold you to your word. Find those women who will remind you that you wanted to write that book or run that marathon or stand on that stage. Find those women who will fly their freak flag right next to yours. Loud and proud, ladies.
Surrender. To me, it doesn't mean to give up or throw in the towel, but to choose to see and allow the circumstances to be what they are. Things happen in our lives that we have no control over, but we do have choices, and there are events that happen no matter what we choose. When I was 19, I was in my second year of college, and my life was moving right along just like any other college student. I was achieving what I wanted to achieve, and I had control over my life. I did what I wanted to when I wanted to. And so I was so excited because at that time I was about to go on spring break for the first time ever with my girlfriends. Just me and my two girls driving down to Florida. But at this same time in my life, my father was pursuing a dream and a passion of his. He became a master scuba diver. And he was so passionate about diving that he decided to move down to the Cayman Islands, one of the best places on the earth to do diving. And he didn't know a single person. So by the time spring break had rolled around, it had been only a couple of months since he'd been there, and he was really looking forward to having someone come see him, visit him, experience what he was experiencing. And so I had chose at that spring break time to go. He wanted me to come to the Caymans to visit him, but I had chose, nope, I'd rather go with my girls down to Florida instead, because who wouldn't want to hang out with the girls than good old Dad? Even though he was cool and a lot of fun to hang out with, very adventurous. But I chose to go down with my girls and said, I'll come over the summer break, we'll have more time to hang out. Well, my girls and I, we're in Orlando that Friday, and a few days later, it was a Sunday. And we had been to dinner, and we came back, and we were staying at a friend's relative's house, and he gets a phone call on the phone. And, back then, we didn't have cell phones. That was 15 years ago. So it came on the landline. So on the phone, it was my mother. And she said, honey, something bad has happened to your dad. He is dead. There was an accident. So on that same Friday that my girls and I were in Florida was the same day that my dad was airing up an oxygen tank, and it exploded on him. So for the next several years, I felt horrible and felt shame because I thought that if I would have been to the Caymans visiting him, then he would have been preparing for my trip or for me to arrive there or be picking me up at the airport. And instead, he was airing an oxygen tank. Then he never would have died, and I let him down. But there's nothing we can do to fill the void of losing someone. It just simply isn't fair. The process of grief can be absolutely unbearable. But for the next few years, I tried really hard to fill that void. Several years later, when my high school sweetheart and I got married, at the time we were living in Arizona while he was playing in the NFL. We came back that following spring to have our wedding, and we had well around 400 people at our wedding, 400. And my dad's side is Amish and Mennonite, so he comes from a large extended family. My mom's side, she has a large extended family. My husband's parents, they both have so we had all this family. We had all of our high school friends, college friends, and our new NFL friends at our wedding. It wasn't until a few later that it really dawned on me. Why did we invite so many people at our wedding? I mean, we loved everyone that was there, but was it really necessary to have that many people? Well, what I realized, it was to fill the void of my father not being there, that he wasn't walking me down the aisle. I know out of this whole world, that would have been something he would have wanted to do, walk his only daughter, only child down the aisle. But he wasn't able to do that. So all those people at the wedding were there to distract me from what I couldn't control. But eventually I have learned to surrender control. It's not about always surrendering to the bad, but surrendering to the good. Allowing myself to be thankful and praise God for my family that I have here with me, for our health and for our freedom. To be intent every day on where God wants me to be. How do I know how to do this? I know when I focus on what is important in life. showing family, friends, strangers, love, mercy, grace, kindness, and compassion. When I surrender to past regrets, past mistakes, fear of loss, judgment, and most of all, to being myself, being the person who God created me to be and not what I think I want to be. So those of you who know me here in the audience know that speaking in front of a group of people is not something I would choose to do for myself or seek out. I like to stay quiet and just kind of blend in, but I believe that that's not where God wants me to be. He wants me to be here tonight on this stage and on this journey of That's What She Said. So I am surrendering and I am out of control. Thank you and hope you all enjoy tonight.
Already, my beautiful 3-year-old daughter seems to be following in her mama's footsteps, and that she is in love with everything dance. And when I watch her in her first ballet classes, I'm struck with awe, admiration, and envy. Why envy? Envy because she's not sliding down that wall, desperately seeking the skinny mirror. She's not looking at her reflection and saying, "Oh, hell no. I look like the child of Medusa and the Pillsbury Doughboy." No, faced with a wall of mirrors, she's loving life. She's loving the expressions on her face. She's loving the shape and the movement of her body. She's reveling in her own awesome! She knows she's perfect exactly the way she is. I was just like her. I was just like her once. But that was before too many times I heard my mom talk about her diet. Before too many times I heard my grandmother use my mother's weight as a weapon. And before too many times I heard comments about my muscular body. It was before in class I noticed the willowy girls tended to get the majority of the compliments, the adoring glances, and the unspoken admiration. And it was before I understood the definition of beauty as put forth by movies and TV and magazines and billboards. And then, after that, looking in the mirror became not about what I was, but what I was not. So by the age of 10, in the studio, there was one place for me in one mirror. And I'd practically fight a girl to keep that spot, because we all knew its magic. It was the spot where I was long and lean, where I was barely visible from the side, where I was the dancer I longed to be, the dancer I saw in photos and on stage. Finding and keeping that spot became a mission, a strategy. If there was a way I could have reserved it with a body part like my pancreas, I think I might have. That spot was the secret to my happiness, and I sought out skinny mirrors in every studio, every class I took, in shop windows, any reflective surface. As I got older and dancing became a deeper experience, both artistically and physically, I stopped relying so heavily upon the mirror. Pulling in, feeling your core engagement was something you were supposed to feel and not just see. And it was impossible to have a truly spiritual connection with the movement or the music or your fellow dancers if you were too busy checking yourself out like some snooty woman at a country club. I still would scrutinize, though. I'd still scrutinize the muscles and the bones and the curves that I thought should be there or should not. But why? Why spend so much time disliking a body that you'll look at in pictures later and think, that wasn't so bad then? Why spend so much time squeezing and poking and pinching and wishing parts of me would just lengthen out, if not disappear altogether? Why did the art form that meant so much to me wreak such havoc on my body image? And why did the mirror have so much power? Was it wanting to be better? Because there's nothing wrong with wanting to be better, but it was so much more than that. It was wanting to feel that I mattered. It was wanting to feel as a dancer that before I did one single move, I was seen and I was liked. It was having the world stamp of approval. It was feeling that I had a reason to be proud of myself. Dancers are extreme, but so many of us as women are just so self-deprecating. We're so busy trying to live up to impossible standards, trying to reach the high bar in somebody else's life, that we can't love and appreciate ourselves. We can't own up to our own power and our own confidence because of those S words, should and supposed to. We have to believe in our own beauty, our own strength, our smarts, our capabilities, flaws and all. Because holding those things and honoring those things can never be found in a mirror. We have to believe them, we have to know them, we have to feel them, we have to value them, because if we can't, our daughters have no hope. I wish that I'd spend more time being like that awesome, amazing, beautiful 3-year-old daughter of mine who knows she's perfect just the way she is, and not like Snow White's evil stepmother who couldn't believe in her own beauty, her own worth, and saw beauty as a zero-sum game. As for my daughter, I don't know if she'll choose dance as her soul's voice. I don't know if, and I hope she doesn't take out the skinny mirror thing. But if she does, I hope she realizes that the skinny mirror has to be within. It has to be inside of her. So always and forever, may she know that her skinny mirror is right here.
Do you have any idea how cool it is to be up here with all these amazing women? I think many of you know that I've spent most of the last 35 years of my life searching for joy with my camera, capturing new babies, brides, family reunions, and colorful landscapes. But it wasn't until I started traveling to third world countries with my camera that I discovered my true passion, purpose, and joy. So tonight, I'm going to take you on a little journey with me to a tiny village in Malawi on the east side of Africa. I traveled there with a group from Copper Creek Church in Champaign on what was called a relationship building mission. We weren't going to build a building. We weren't going to dig a well. We were there to be in relationship with the people of Africa. I stayed with a family in the village in a tiny house with 3 small rooms, dirt floors, and no running water. Alice gathered the food while Dorothy cooked greens over the open fire. And neighbors stopped by to teach me how to carry supplies on my head, which didn't go so well, by the way. Uncle Walter waited for the moon to rise so we could make the long walk home. And after dark, we studied the Bible by candlelight. No running water, no inside bathroom, no kitchen sink, just an uncanny sense of abundance. Sharing life with them, I was humbled by their hospitality and ambushed by their joy. I woke up at dawn to the sound of women's voices laughing. I grabbed my camera and I ran out to the road to see these 4 women walking to the market. And they were laughing and singing and having such a great time. I just wish I knew the stories they were telling. So over the next week or so, I had a chance to kind of do life with the women of Lisanjala. We talked together, we laughed together, we danced a lot together. We sat down and shared long talks about life and customs in our villages. I showed one woman a picture, an aerial shot of U of I campus that I'd taken a couple years ago. And she looked at me with this questioning face and said, "Does anyone in your village own a car?" Well, talking to them, I really realized we talked a lot about life. And what I found out is that we were really more alike than we were different. That we had the same hopes and dreams for our kids, the same concerns about health and aging parents and teenagers who wouldn't behave. And then it occurred to me, what if I hadn't said yes to this trip and ignored that voice inside of me urging me to go? What if I'd been afraid to step out of my comfort zone? What if I'd held on so tightly to the gifts God had given me that I missed a chance at real joy? Now, I realize that not all of us can go to Malawi. Everybody's soul journey is different. But I know that we each have opportunities right here to build relationships with each other in our families, in our workplaces, in our volunteer jobs, in our neighborhoods. And I think that's how the idea of the 7 questions came up. The She Said people sat down and said, what can we do to make tonight keep going? What can we do to foster relationships with the people outside of this room? And so we came up with 7 questions. If you turn to the back of your program, you'll see the questions. Questions like, what makes you unique? What would you do if you weren't afraid? So we're hoping that you'll take those questions out and use them and let them be the start of new relationships with people. And then I got to thinking, well, what would happen if we took those same 7 questions and took them somewhere outside of Champaign, maybe somewhere where people look different than me and have different customs than I do? What would it look like to sit down with women in another country and go through the 7 questions? So that's exactly what we're going to do. I don't know if you saw the poster in the hallway as you came in, but we're going to Haiti on the first ever She Said Soul Journey. On May 19th, a dozen of us will travel from here to Haiti to work in an orphanage there. We'll work together, we'll play together, we'll sit down and take the 7 questions, sit down with the Haitian nannies at the orphanage, and start a relationship building exercise with them. Okay, now this is the good part. You know, years ago I sat in a room like this and I watched a presentation on a mission trip to the Philippines. And halfway through I started to cry, hard to believe. Halfway through I started to cry and I said, God's calling me to go there. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to afford the ticket. I don't know a lot of stuff, but I know that I'm supposed to go. So after the presentation, I went up and I said, take me. I have a feeling there's somebody in this room that feels the same way. If you're ready to get out of your comfort zone, if you're hearing a voice deep inside of you telling you it's time to let go and jump into the water with both feet, trust it and say yes. Don't get stuck in the web of what ifs. What if it costs too much? What if I get sick? What if my family can't live without me while I'm gone? Please consider the most important question. What if you say no? You might just be passing up an opportunity to be ambushed by joy. So trust that voice and meet me in the lobby at intermission under the Haiti poster and let the journey begin.
Not going to need these. Kleenex are done. So I'm glad to be following Karyl, who mentioned being ambushed by joy, because I remember being ambushed by joy, different kind of joy, childbirth. It's an ambush. I'm sure some of you went through it. I mean, if you're a dude, you probably can't forget what you saw that day, right? A lot happened. And if you're a female, you don't forget what you felt that day. And nowadays, you know, the nurses are down there flipping mirrors around for you so you can see everything, like the gals at the Clinique counter. Yeah. It's like an Ann Getty's portrait now, but that's not a head of lettuce that baby's coming out of, so no. And just when you think you can't slide any lower, things get worse. 6 weeks later. So you remember what happened 6 weeks later? That's the postpartum checkup. So that is the checkup in which the OB will stare at your nethers under the glare of a strobe light mounted to a hard hat. And she will ask you leading questions, trying to determine how many times you've fallen down the stairs in a fit of delirium and how closely you're identifying to the movie The Omen. And as you gently hint at the likelihood of getting a script for Tylenol PM for infants, your OB will smile at you, offer congratulations for your bundle of colic, and will say the one sentence you are, no matter what that speculum says, entirely unprepared to hear. Come close. You may now resume sexual activity. What? Yeah. And the worst part is your husband is standing beside you as this news is delivered. And the smile to spread across his face is going to outstretch the one you first saw when he was handed his newborn baby. That smile's going to fade, though. It's going to fade when he sees your descent through the 5 stages of grief, all of which happen in dramatic flare with your knees still touching opposite coastlines. So the first one, denial. See, I just had a baby, a human one. That's her right there. That was inside of me until she tore her way through it like a goddamn Trojan horse. You certain you even went to medical school? Anger. Okay, I was told by a woman I work with that you were gonna give me happy pills at this appointment. Now tell me I need to be having sex with this guy. Stage 3, bargaining. Okay, we have gotten off on the wrong foot. Let's start over. You pop a couple of those episiotomy stitches down there, and I will tell all of my friends with yeast infections to come see you. Stage 4, depression. The utterance of words through the passage through this phase ceases altogether as you realize that the only moments your day permits for a shower and a status update on Facebook have just been stolen. Stage 5, acceptance. You nod your head slowly, shifting your eyes to the doctor, to your husband, to the baby, realizing that all are working in chorus to destroy your personal anatomy and your DVR queue. So you leave that physician's office, probably still wearing those oversized maxi pads you stole from the hospital, with a slow and wearied gait, dead vagina walking. But your husband, on the other hand, oh, he's got a buoyancy to his step, right? He's hearing a little Marvin Gaye in there. He's moving along. And you're feeling a little terrified because your body has been hijacked by hormones, your erogenous zones have been assassinated by nursing, and your ability to lay prone in the dark without falling comatose has been lost altogether. But you do realize, on some level, that he is going to start dry humping your leg. Yeah, like a neutered Jack Russell Terrier. If you continue to cite funky stuff you don't even want to know about going on down there. He will think you're stretching the truth when you say you're considering a divine calling to join a Roman convent. So you'll do it. You will. You'll do it. And it'll be fine. But it's completely fair to say that you're not taking those sweatpants off.
Honestly, I can't imagine a life without the arts. I grew up, most of my family are artists. My mom, when I would come home from school and I was little, like my clumsy crayon drawings, they were not put up on the fridge and praised, they were formally critiqued. I've just always known this is what I've wanted to do. It's comfort, it's my home. It's in my blood. I can't see myself doing anything but what I love, and it means everything to me.
Peyton Stewart is a 2012 graduate of the High School of St. Thomas More in Champaign. She started her own jewelry line while still in high school and used the proceeds to establish a school lunch fund at St. Thomas More that has now raised over $16,000. With a comprehensive range of artistic skills, an ability to both dream and execute, and a willingness to look for inventive ways for her art to impact her environment, Peyton continues to strengthen her talents at the School of Art and Design at the University of Illinois.
Welcome back, everyone. And thank you, 40 North, for providing that video that shows just why we love Peyton Stewart.
Wow.
We love her. For this special part of the show, we thought we'd do something different, take it down a notch, and sit here with you all and practice going over our 7 questions. And poor little Peyton, because she's our youngest speaker, has agreed to be our guinea pig on this one. So we're going to go over 3 of the 7 questions just so we can all get a feel for what it feels like to have someone ask you these questions and discuss them in front of 700 people, right? So, Peyton, dear friend, tell us what makes you feel grateful this evening.
Well, Joe. I feel like I'm on the morning show or something.
You are.
I mean, I have to state the obvious first and say that I'm so thankful for having the opportunity to revel in the divine wisdom of all these women. Like, truly. I'm thankful to have had the opportunity to speak to all of you beautiful people and entertain you, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm thankful for having a full set of teeth and a brain in my head and 2 feet so I can put them in these amazing shoes given to us by Circles Boutique, one of our sponsors.
Woo! Thank you, Danelle.
Oh no, we're going
off.
off.
Oh God. We don't need those notes anyway.
We don't need them.
Yeah, what were we doing?
We're living on the edge.
There you go.
I'd have to say that I'm thankful for my health as well, and if I can be completely honest with it.
Please do.
One of my worst fears is getting into some kind of horrible accident and becoming a quadriplegic or like losing all my limbs, because I'm like ridiculously neurotic.
Indeed.
And it would just be like me and my brain, and I'm pretty sure that my heart would just like explode like mid sponge bath or something.
This is many people's fear.
I feel better now, thank you.
Yeah. This is common.
Load off my back.
So it sounds like you've had, your life is full of uncomfortable moments like
Very.
that, very. And I bet those uncomfortable moments have taught you a lot about who you are and who you want to be. I know I never have uncomfortable moments, ever.
Clearly.
No, never. But if I were, they would definitely be around Kerry Rossow. I know, unbelievable. But what she has taught me is that the uncomfortable moments really help you grow. And she always says, leap and the net will appear. So I'm wondering, Peyton, is there anybody in your life that's been a teacher and given you some good advice on how to deal with life and things?
Well, I've definitely learned to see the humor in everything, because otherwise what's the point? You're just uncomfortable all the time. I'd have to say one of my favorite pieces of advice that I've ever gotten came from my grandmother, Jean Valentine, also known as Jean the Love Machine.
Bow, bow.
Among members of our family. She told me once that if you marry a man who hates to dance, you'll be sitting on the couch for the rest of your life.
Isn't that the truth?
Isn't that the truth?
That's right. Marry a man who likes to dance. I agree.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Learning from that also, like, I've like, luckily I've grown up in a family that's like very open about feelings and stuff. So, you know, I'd come home from school and I'd be like, Mom, I'd be like in the 7th or 8th grade, and I'd be like, Mom, like, the boy that I like is like dating this other girl, or I IM'd him 4 times and he hasn't messaged me back.
What a jerk.
I know. I totally wrote about it in my diary. It's somewhere. I'm gonna excavate it sometime. But I think that just being able to be open with my family, and especially like my mother, and coming home and talking to her about like boy problems or whatever. Even like when I was young, like she told me things like, you know, you need to look out for like certain red flags, or I'd be like, oh, I don't understand why he doesn't IM me back, and she'd be like, he doesn't like you. And you need to hear that sometimes. You know, I'm honestly, and it's good, I need the honest truth. I think everybody does. And I've learned that you need to find somebody who you don't want to like fix all your problems. You don't want somebody who you're like constantly seeking their validation. You just want somebody who thinks you're great and thinks you're fantastic and who you think the same of them. And it's that easy.
It is. It is. Well, Peyton, I would IM you back, and I think you're fantastic. And I can see that everybody in this room thinks that you're fantastic also.
Oh, my ego.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Indeed, indeed. That video that we just saw of all of your fantasticness was taped, over a year ago?
Over a year ago.
Yeah. So tell us what's changed over the last year and how you've grown.
Well, I've gotten a few haircuts since then.
Mm-hmm. Thank God.
If you can't tell. Well, 1 year ago, I had just entered my freshman year. That was actually filmed in October also, so literally like 1 year. I was entering my freshman year into the University of Illinois as a student of art and design. And no matter like how hard I tried, like I joined a sorority, like I even went to Joe's a couple times. Don't do that.
Haven't we all? Haven't we all?
You know, like I put myself out there and I tried to make a lot of friends, but like no matter what I did, I just felt like I didn't really fit in, like it didn't click, like I couldn't find my niche. And so instead of, like obviously, like I was kind of lacking an interesting, exciting, vibrant social life, I would stay in on the weekends with a drink in one hand and my sketchbook in the other, and I would draw and I would journal, and I had a lot of time to myself, and I spent a lot of time with my family, which is one perk of going to school in your hometown of Champaign-Urbana. You know, like I learned a lot about myself, and I am thankful for spending that 1 year here, but my mom was really sick, and the sicker that she got, the more depressed and the more unhappy that I became at school. And this journaling sort of became like this crutch that I had. No, not really a crutch, it was more of like a survival kit, really. If I had a bad day, I'd come home and I'd write about it. You know, I'd just get real angsty. And I think that really helped me through a lot of what I'd been through. Like I've lost friendships, you know, like people, like crushes, like even after a while, like, you know, they don't go anywhere, and that still hurts. It still hurts, even if it's like silly and insignificant. And I lost my mother in April, and all through all of that, all through all of this loss and all of this sadness, I just journaled. It was the one thing I had. And throughout this experience, I realized that I need to, like, you are all that you have. And not even in like a self-deprecating, I'm so sad, I'm gonna just be sad all the time because nobody like likes me or whatever sort of way. Like, I mean it in a, you are all that you have, so trust yourself and listen to yourself and pay attention to what you pay attention to and the people that you surround yourself with and the thoughts that you have. Because that's all you have, truly. And you need to rely on that, and you need to turn your focus inward and really like listen to yourself.
That's right. She agrees. Who else agrees?
Now, 1 year later, after becoming a student at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, this is my first time coming back since the 6 weeks ago that I started school in Chicago, and I've learned who my real friends are. Like, you come back and the people that really want to see you, like, that's beautiful. And the family members that you come back to are like so excited to see you. That's also beautiful. And I'm realizing like what I like and what I want and what I don't want. And I'm really starting to like the person that I'm becoming, and I can't ask for anything else.
I'm so glad that you came back to share your wisdom and spirit with us, Peyton. For such a young age, you seem wiser than all of us in the room combined. So thank you for being here.
Oh, for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peyton Stewart, everyone.
Distracting. Very distracting. I've made a truce with time and should. Will it last? It's hard to say. So far, so good. Using timeless wisdom from Dr. Seuss, I'll tell you how this came about. How did it get so late so soon? It's night before it's afternoon. December's here before it's June. Goodness, how the time has flew. How did it get so late so soon? From the time I could walk, I struggled with should and time. The world's random rules, impossible expectations, and illogical blocks of time frustrated and confused me. And this is normal for young children. But I was not normal. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? Because sometimes you should, but I didn't. Fit in, that is. I stood out, and I stood up when I should sit down, and I jabbered when I should be quiet. I did all the things I shouldn't, and I couldn't help it. Everyone wondered why, and so did I. Think and wonder, wonder and think. There was a name for my not normalness. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Not a common diagnosis in the 1970s, and not many people knew much about it. But I did, because I lived it. You are you. Now, isn't that pleasant? No, I wouldn't say being me was pleasant. It was either awesome or terrible. There was no middle ground, no calm, no peace. The more you read, the more things you'll know. The more things you learn, the more places you'll go. Reading became my refuge, and Dr. Seuss, my muse. The comforting rhythm and encouraging words made sense to me. Seussisms guided me through many a difficult time. Dr. Seuss wasn't really a doctor, but his words healed me. Books, boundaries, and places to go. My parents provided me with all of these things, along with the opportunities to learn how to fit in and stand out. And because they knew I had no patience whatsoever, they found a way to help me tolerate time. An example of this, they declared the long drive to my grandparents' house in the city to be only 45 minutes long. They knew this number would make me happy. 45 minutes was not some arbitrary number they chose. It meant something to me. 45 minutes was safe, good, and tolerable. You know why? Because 45 minutes of being patient and behaving is easier than doing it for a whole hour. I could behave in church, math class, or sit still in the car for 45 minutes. And 45 minutes of having a good time seemed like so much longer than a mere half hour of fun. Will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98 3/4% guaranteed. 45 minutes was a compromise, a number that made it more likely that I could succeed at doing what I should. You see, physical time is not at all reflective of the way my ADHD brain experienced time. Try to imagine experiencing time within time all the time. Instead of flowing through time, being in the moment, your past, present, and future is colliding in every moment. It's exhausting. Oh my God. Step with great care and great tact, and remember that life is a balancing act. I cared, but I was tactless, stubborn, and impulsive, which made finding balance quite difficult. And I learned everything the hard way. Taking medication helped. It made it a little easier for me, but it was still hard. Today I shall behave as if today will be remembered. This particular Seussism became my mantra. In all of the Good Doc stories, I noticed that behaving didn't mean conforming. I realized that I could fit in and stand out. And my parents reinforced this truth every day. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Adult me wasn't very different than kid me, because nobody grows out of ADHD. Total myth, by the way. Don't believe it. We just learn to live with it. But even as adults, we need firm boundaries. So when I made them myself, I stuck with that 45-minute safe measure. I sought it out, and I made it so. Higher education is heaven for the unquiet mind. So many 45-minute blocks of time. I made it through college, grad school, and found a career. I had good friends and remained extremely close to my family. I married my love and became a mother. I felt successful, but I was never content. Today you are you, and that's truer than true, and there is no one alive that is youer than you. It kept getting easier, but it was still so hard to be me sometimes. One day, I was driving along and experienced my first truly peaceful moment as I listened to my son singing and giggling in the back seat. Oh, so this is what it felt like to be in the moment, to be content. Before I knew it, the moment turned into a memory, but this memory often provided me with great comfort. My tussles with time and should became less and less, and I learned how to be. I learned how to balance. Only you can control your future. I worked hard to stay in control and let go. And just when I was starting to feel in control of my future, the future took control of me. Cancer, a future nobody can control. Cancer quickly ravaged my father, and I found it impossible to balance anything during the time he was sick. Forget about being content. I was terrified. You have brains in your head and feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in whatever direction you choose. But how could I choose? Should I be with my father, my friends, my family, at work? There were too many shoulds and never enough time. And my father's time was running out. Being with him that became the should that took up most of my time. Yet somehow, I wasn't with him when he died. How much longer, Mommy? My son whined. He was frustrated and confused during the long drive to his grandparents. I understood, and I remembered, and I felt the same way. I had to make it better for him the way my parents did for me. Only 45 minutes, baby. You just have to hold on for only 45 minutes, and we will be there. But nothing could make the time less painful for me. My safe time frame gave me zero comfort because my father was dead. Hold him here and here. My mother stayed with my father, rubbing his arms, neck, and face, keeping him warm and as soft as she could until I arrived, because she didn't want me to say goodbye to a cold, stiff body. What must the time have felt like for her? Too much? Not enough? I suppose both. I ran my fingers through his curly black hair, and it happened again, that being in the moment thing. I was only right there, at that moment, with my father as his body cooled and hardened. And this is when I said goodbye. And so I formed a truce with time and should, my lifelong adversaries. In the moment when life and death meet, these things lose their power, and it is silly to keep fighting. Because life and death just are, regardless of the choices I make, how I spend my time. What matters is simply what is in every single moment. And I'd never be able to control how many of those I would have, even if I did all the things I should. And this is true for everyone, whether you fit in or stand out. Sometimes the questions are complicated and the answers are simple. The truth is still alive 10 years later. It's gotten easier, but it's still really hard. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.
Let's start with an informal poll. Raise your hand if you've eaten food off the floor. All right. Now, raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand and you were lying. Next poll. Who has eaten damp food off the floor? Like a watermelon slice or Jell-O? You're out there, right? All right. Okay. Last one, be brave. Who's eaten food that their father found in the gutter on the side of the road when she was 10? No, all right. When I was 10, I ate a crushed but still hermetically sealed package of Hostess cupcakes that my father found on the side of the road. But there was context. There's always context. Mark, my biological father, had context of his own. He was, on the one hand, a man who married an 18-year-old, dropped out of college, produced a daughter, and later blocked that daughter's mother from leaving the house when she decided that being married to a lunatic was no longer for her. On the other hand, his family was a real treat. That is to say that growing up, Mark was no Hostess cupcake. Those roadkill cakes had context too. My father had been out running when he saw them with their signature white icing swirl lying on the curb, practically unmangled. It was not something he'd normally bring me, what with his diabetes and his eternal hatred for both enjoyment and fat people. Add to that he was the cheapest bastard alive, and there's no way he would have bought me cake. Especially not a name brand snack cake. This was manna from heaven, if heaven were a 24-hour convenience store. So when he returned to the small apartment that he lived in, one that I was legally obligated to visit every other weekend and each summer, he gave me his treasure, and I ate it. When a crazy man brings you gutter cakes, you eat them. You eat them standing in the living room while he watches. You thank him, and you ask him to tell you again how he found them there and thought, I bet Nicole would enjoy eating trash. I bet you think you would have said no to my father, but you didn't refuse my father. Not because he would have beaten me or locked me in a closet, but because I would have had to endure his unending disappointment. His was a disappointment that was only exorcised on the wind of a heavy sigh after hours of silence and shunning. Plus, I like cake. Let's revisit that poll. Have you ever done something in context that you would never consider in any other circumstance? Remember that honesty leads to emotional freedom. Another thing that leads to emotional freedom is death. When my father died, I was 20 and I was free in a fashion. Free to make my own decisions about my adulthood. Decisions about things like keg stands, finishing college, dating seriously, bills, jobs, trendy haircuts, legally binding marital union, home ownership, taxes, credit card debt, diet fads, cable TV service providers, pets, and children. Well, kind of free. Because for better or worse, the framework laid by my father would factor heavily into my choices. The truth is, though, it's not enough to be on the brink of adulthood with the absence of poor parenting. A young person, especially a daughter, needs the ongoing influence of a high-quality parent, especially a father. You know, daddy issues. But how does one identify a high-quality parent? A high-quality parent smiles often, revels in your triumphs, expects better of you and helps you to achieve it, and does not pilot the car with his knees while rolling a joint on the highway. A high-quality parent avoids DUIs. This is not to be confused with choosing to become a parent. Idiots successfully make this decision with little more than an available sex partner and a fifth of vodka. Sure, erstwhile parents will read a few books and ask around, but the choice to parent is less about securing offspring and more about rearing them. Because once that kid arrives, life gets overwhelming and precious and wonderful and terrible all at once. And we realize that parenting is a series of choices, constantly shifting, demanding, urgent choices. A quality parent, one who lets you stay up late to bond over cookies and milk, but also insists that you brush your teeth before going to bed. One that helps you tour college campuses, but nods thoughtfully when you say you want to be a mime. That's a quality parent. He can be scared and confused. He can even hate it sometimes, but he's all in. And so, even though he loved me, and he did in his own way, my Mark was not up to the choosing. But my Kevin is. Because sometime between the day my mom divorced my dad and the day she said I do to Kevin, he showed up and made a choice. He met me when I was 6, and he was Kevin, and by the time I was 16, he was Daddy. When my father was holding grudges against me and giving me the silent treatment because, and this is a quote, "you don't love me the right way," my Kevin was talking with my mom about having more kids and saying, "we already have a daughter. We have Nicole." Kevin taught me that boys are indeed checking out my legs, and that I should be both proud and wary. He taught me that his disappointment over my actions is completely different than his disappointment over my being. He taught me to love and laugh and listen to the important people in my life. The only thing more consistent than his love and support is the ticking of time itself. It occurs to me now as a parent that biology has nothing on commitment. The quality parent commits to the whole package and renews that commitment nearly daily. Long after the diapers have been moldering in a landfill and the tantrums of tweendom have ebbed, there will be an adult child who will look back and remember that you, Daddy, were there in the thick of it all. And those times will be the touchstones along that grown-up child's path that help her navigate bills, jobs, legally binding marital union, cable TV service calls, and even her own parenting choices. So, informal poll. Would you choose a different dad? For my part, I couldn't have picked a better father, but then I never had to, because Kevin chose me.
Okay, anybody that knows me well knows that I cry. And this group saw me cry all during rehearsal. Well, I have to tell you that I'm going to do this. I have to tell you, you know, I use the term ambushed by joy a lot when I talk to the first half. I have been ambushed by joy tonight because I didn't know if one person would come to the Haiti booth to talk about this trip. And I have to tell you that 42 of you did. Now, that blows me away. I have to tell you, I'm not quite sure what to do about it. But I can tell you one thing we're going to do right off the bat. Carissa, come here. Carissa Kemna. Everybody here, let's hear it for Carissa. Okay, she is our Vanna White tonight. In this bucket are the 42 contact information forms that you guys sent out. I'm putting them back in the bucket because one of these people is going to go to Haiti for free. The Christie Foundation has generously agreed to send one of you with the team to Haiti. Now, we're going to take a few more, but somebody in here, in this room tonight, is going to get a chance to be ambushed by Joy in Haiti in May. So if I call your name, I'm going to draw a card. When I call your name, raise your hand, and then we'll have this packet right here has all the information you're going to need to get you started, plus my phone number. So we will be out at the same Haiti table with this packet to congratulate you. So, drum roll or something. Okay, now, just so you know, all right, that's good. That's enough. That's really good. Okay, so just so you know, every one of these cards was put in a separate envelope and sealed. So we have no clue whose card's getting pulled out, I promise. So, all right, I got one. Hold this for a second. And I'm going to Haiti too, so this is going to be really fun, and Carissa is too. Oh my gosh. Mary White. Mary. Woo! Oh my gosh, that's so fun. Okay. So for the rest of you, we're going to keep all these names and numbers. We're going to come up with a system to pick the other ones we need for this trip. I am confident we'll be doing other trips. We'll keep you informed of that, and thank you so much.
Ding! I want to go to Haiti, but I will be delivering a baby then, so I won't be there. So I'm glad I will be here tonight, and this is not chicken wings. So, hey y'all. Hey. All right, I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. I gotta take the glare off of there. Let's get real, people. Stories. We all have a story. Every single one of you in here has a story. We've heard these amazing stories up here that they slay me emotionally. Oh my God, I'm like crying, and I'm smiling so much, my teeth are dry. You ever have that? You're like, my teeth are so dry now. Now, so all these stories, right? Now, I'll talk about something a little sad, and I'll explain this in a minute. I know you're like, what the hell does she have that sword for? Now, stories. Sadly, some of them are pretty intense. And I'm talking domestic violence, rape, incest, neglect. Oh wait, that was my life. Sorry. What about you? No, we all have something traumatic that we've been through. We all know somebody who's been through a traumatic experience. And I say traumatic experience because trauma is, there's no boundary for trauma. All of those sum up under the word trauma: domestic violence, rape, incest, you're incarcerated, your parents are incarcerated, your addictions, et cetera, death, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Trauma, okay? Now, trauma is like being pierced with a sword. Do you see that? Don't get distracted. So trauma is like getting pierced with a sword. And it's, it affects your whole entire life, certainly affects your mental state. Can you see that? Right? You're like, oh yeah, I got one of those. It affects your mental state, it affects all your relationships. It makes it hard to breathe, affects your health. It's certainly hard to cuddle and have a healthy relationship when you're like, don't touch me, I'm in pain. Now, the reason I like this analogy so much is because you can remove it, heal the wound, and then you have it. Because, let me just back up for a minute. I come from a story, I had a home, I grew up in a home of incest, domestic violence, insanity. I was removed from that home and put into foster care, where we were then starved, and the lady did not succeed in killing us, thank God. And, that was my life. That was my trauma, okay? And it literally affected my whole entire life. It showed up in everything I did, in all of my relationship choices. Like, for example, you could bring me You could bring me to a stadium full of the most amazing gentlemen in the world, like all the good guys to bring home to your mom. I am gonna find the asshole. And I am going to marry him. Where is he? I'm like a homing pigeon. Bring him to me. Right? You know, the women are like, oh my God, me too. Now, I wanted to get better. I wanted this removed from my body. I wanted, and I actually came up with this concept after I went on a journey, a very long journey, to discover every single healing technique known to man. I tried everything because I was like, I want to live happily ever after. I don't want to buy into the fact that I came from like that poor white girl from the, with barefoot from the trailer. She, like, her life is laid out for her. I don't buy it. I'm not buying that. I want the happily ever ending story. Guess what? I totally have it now. Happy ending. Woo! Bonus. So in order to get there, I had to get better and I had to remove this. So I tried every healing technique ever. And I was living in LA at the time, and I am my mother's daughter. So there were crystals involved. And I tried light and sound therapy. It's a box they use stand in, like you get light and sound therapy. I tried EMDR, NMT, EFT, TFT, every single possible talk therapy. There's even a gong, a big giant gong that they put over your vagina to reclaim and heal your sexuality. Gong. Oh, that's in Los Angeles. All of these things are very expensive. And believe me, I spent a lot of money trying every possible thing. And I discovered, during this process, I discovered this, or I was gifted with it from the gods, from the muses. I was given, because I'm an artist, and I had this vision one day. I'm like, oh my God, all of this is being pierced with a sword. And I have to remove the sword. And then I have it. And I started sharing that concept, and people were like, oh my God, that's so cool, because then it has an end point. I'm like, right? It's it's not going to last forever, because the scary part is addressing the core issue, right? Because we all have something. Agreed? Everybody. I've been traveling for so long. Everybody has something traumatic that is affecting your whole entire life. But we'll spend all kinds of time talking about the migraine, right? We're not talking about this. Oh, we're going to talk about the infections. Yeah, talk about fibromyalgia, or talk about all my mental problems, or all the stuff let's just talk about this. We're not going to, this is nothing. It's nothing. Don't cuddle with me, right? We'll spend all this time. Now, the scary part is, what if? What if I actually address this and really oh my God, I have to remove that. Which means I have to go back and really get to the root of stuff and purge it. Yeah, you do. And the beauty of this is it has an end point. And I'm just going to share with you a simple little thing to do in your head. All of this comes with, what if? What if I become a raging maniac and go to jail and end up on Orange is the New Black? Because I will. Or what if I start crying and I never stop crying and I just cry for the rest of my life? Just for now, for the rest of your life, try this. Replace all the what ifs with even if. It accesses a different side of your brain. So if you go, even if I turn into a raging, totally Tasmanian devil, I will look so hot in orange. Or even if I cry, for I will win an Emmy. You know what I mean? Even it changes the way you're thinking about it, right? And then it doesn't become so hard because it has an end point. And yeah, it sucks, and you're gonna cry. Yeah, okay. So? And you're gonna get mad because this brings up all kinds of rage and anger. Yeah, okay, yep, that's right. But then you remove it, and then you have a really great wound. It's awesome. And then you can heal the wound, which goes back to all of the gong. There's all kinds of things that you can heal. There's all kinds of techniques. I've tried them. I can send you to some websites. to heal the wound, right? But I discovered one, I'm just gonna lay this down for a minute because you gotta address your wound. Don't pick your sword up yet. The number one most powerful healing technique I discovered in all my travels was free, and it's what you're saying to yourself in your head, honestly. Because all this stuff, all of what somebody else did to you in your life, created all of these neural pathways in your brain of I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm worthless, I'm damaged goods, I'll never have a happy relationship, I'm never gonna have that. Never. No, again. I'm never gonna ever, like all these negative thought patterns, right? And they literally exist in your head like little pathways in your brain. They're called neural pathways. And the way to get rid of all those negative ones is to create positive ones. And it's like, that is so simple. Yeah, it is actually. And it's free. I'll give you one example. For mine was like, you're stupid, stupid, stupid. You did it again. You're stupid, you're ugly, you're pathetic. You have hairs on your chin. Seriously, I'm like, tweezers, anybody? So like, ugly. Meanwhile, I was on the cover of fashion magazines. Yes, I was, shut up. I really was. And I was like paid to be pretty way back in the day. But yet my thought process was, you stupid piece of crap, you're stupid, worthless. So as I started to learn these techniques, I was like, you gotta choose something totally different. You gotta go polar opposite. And my polar opposite was, pull it out of a hat. I'm a goddess. At first I'm like, no, you're not. Goddesses do not have beards. You are not a goddess, girl. Now, this is affirmation technique 101. This is why in bookstores now you see literally like aisles and aisles and aisles of books you can buy for affirmations because they work. But I'm saying don't buy the book. Change what you're saying to yourself in your head. But I'm going to give you one because I love you guys. And I'm just going to give you this to you because you have it for the rest of your life and you're welcome. Okay, like when I'm not that girl that's going to put all the Post-its on my mirror and be like, you're special. You're pretty today, I love you. Because I have way too many parties. Could you imagine? Like somebody goes to the bathroom and they're like, like I'm good. I was like, come on, like let's get, so here's a technique that you will have for the rest of your life. Literally, to grow all those neural pathways, change the way you're listening to music. You're like, what? No, seriously. Change the way you're listening to music. I want you to pick the cheesiest, craziest, silliest love song you've ever heard in your life. It has to be like crazy, silly love song. And the next time you're in your car or with your MP3 player at the gym or whatever, or running naked down Healy Street. Change the way you pick the cheesiest love song. It has to be a cheesy love song. I'm not talking about like back your booty up. No, it has to be a cheesy love song. Sing it out loud to yourself as if your higher power is singing to you. The you truly know you to be is singing to you. The you that's the older you, like the old lady or the old man you, that is like, you stupid. That's looking back at you like, you were beautiful, why did you waste it? That person singing to you, sing it out loud, and it fires off all these neural pathways without you having to be like, I'm special. And this is why they teach children new things via song, because it creates new neural pathways in your brain. You're welcome, you have that for the rest of your life. Change the way you're listening to love songs. I will always love you. Right? And replace what if with even if. And then you remove the sword, you heal the wound, and then you have it. Now, this does not mean you're gonna go lopping off heads. This is a metaphor, right? This is all of your... Actually, it's $5 at Target. It's really fun. And it doesn't mean just like you're singing love songs in your head, just doesn't mean you're gonna literally walk around with a sword for the rest of your life. It's a little awkward. They wouldn't let me fly with this. It's a big deal. And so you have it in your mind. You have your sword. It becomes your backbone, your strength. Eventually, you no longer even have to think about it anymore. It becomes reclaiming play. Because you know what? How many times have you been through something in your life that was traumatic that has stunted and halted your playtime? I'm not kidding here. I'm serious. Like, that's what happens in life with trauma. It halts your playtime. I'm saying, bitches, reclaim play. Reclaim play. You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, wear sunscreen. If I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it. The long-term benefits of sunscreen have been proven by scientists, whereas the rest of my advice has no basis more reliable than my own meandering experience. I will dispense this advice now. Enjoy the power and beauty of your youth. Oh, never mind. You will not understand the power and beauty of your youth until they've faded. But trust me, in 20 years, you'll look back at photos of yourself and recall in a way you can't grasp now how much possibility lay before you and how fabulous you really looked. You're not as fat as you imagine. Don't worry about the future or worry, but know that wearing is as effective as trying to solve an algebra equation by chewing bubble gum. The real troubles in your life are apt to be things that never crossed your worried mind. The kind that blindside you at 4 p.m. on some idle Tuesday. Do one thing every day that scares you. Sing. Don't be reckless with other people's hearts. Don't put up with people who are reckless with yours. Floss. Don't waste your time on jealousy. Sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. The race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself. Remember compliments you receive. Forget the insults. If you succeed in doing this, tell me how. Keep your old love letters, throw away your old bank statements. Stretch. Don't feel guilty if you don't know what to do with your life. The most interesting people I know didn't know at 22 what they wanted to do with their lives. Some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't. Get plenty of calcium. Be kind to your knees. You'll miss them when they're gone. Maybe you'll marry, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have children, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll divorce at 40. Maybe you'll dance the funky chicken on your 75th wedding anniversary. Whatever you do, don't congratulate yourself too much or berate yourself either. Your choices are half chance. So are everyone else's. Enjoy your body. Use it in every way you can. Don't be afraid of it or what other people think of it. It's the greatest instrument you'll ever own. Dance. even if you have nowhere to do it but in your living room. Read the directions, even if you don't follow them. Do not read beauty magazines. They will only make you feel ugly.
Brother and sister, together we'll make it through. Someday a spirit will take you and guide you there. I know you've been hurting, but I have been waiting to be there for you. And I'll be there every time, helping you whenever I can.
Get to know your parents. You never know when they'll be gone for good. Be nice to your siblings. They're your best link to your past and the people most likely to stick with you in the future. Understand that friends come and go, but with a precious few, you should hold on. Work hard to bridge the gaps in geography and lifestyle, because the older you get, the more people you need who knew you when you were young. Live in New York once, but leave before it makes you hard. Live in Northern California once, but leave before it makes you soft. Travel. Accept certain inalienable truths. Prices will rise, politicians will philander. You too will get old. And when you do, you'll fantasize that when you were young, prices were reasonable, politicians were noble, and children respected their parents. Respect your elders. Don't expect anyone else to support you. Maybe you'll have a trust fund, maybe you'll have a wealthy spouse, but you never know when either one might run out. Don't mess too much with your hair, or by the time you're 40, it will look 85. Be careful whose advice you buy, but be patient with those who supply it. Advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth. But trust me on the sunscreen.
Brother and sister, together we'll make it through. No, someday a spirit will take you and guide you there. I know you've been hurting, but I have been waiting to be there for you, and I'll be there helping you out every time I can. Ooh. Oh, happy day, oh, happy day, when Jesus washed, when Jesus washed, when Jesus washed, He washed my sins away. Oh, happy day. wash my sins away. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. This morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. Oh, this morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. Oh, this morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. Oh, 'cause I know the Lord, I know the Lord. Oh, and I know He will. Oh, yes, all the way. This morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. Oh, this morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. Oh, this morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. Oh, 'cause I know the Lord, I know the Lord. Oh, and I know He will. Yes, all the way. I felt like clapping. I felt like clapping, yeah. Oh, I felt like dancing, yeah. I felt like dancing, yeah. Oh, I felt like singing. Oh, I felt like singing, yeah. I felt like singing, yeah. Felt like singing. Oh, I felt like singing, yeah. I felt like singing. Oh, I know the Lord, I know the Lord. Oh, and I know He will. Yes, all the way.
I look and stare so deep in your eyes. I touch on you more and more every time. When you leave, I'm begging you not to go. Call your name 2-3 times in a row. Such a funny thing for me to try to explain. How I'm feeling, my pride is the one to blame. 'Cause I know I don't understand just how your love is doing, no one else can. Got me looking so crazy right now. Your love got me looking so crazy right now. Got me looking so crazy right now. Your touch got me looking so crazy right now. Got me hoping you'll page me right now. Your kiss got me hoping you'll save me right now. Looking so crazy, your love's got me looking so crazy, your love. Oh 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 no no. 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 When I talk to my friends so wily, who we think he is? Look at what you did to me. Tennis shoes don't even need to buy a new dress. If you ain't there, ain't nobody else to impress. It's the way that you know what I thought I knew. It's the beat in my heart skips when I'm with you. But I still don't understand just how your love is doing, no one